Hi everyone and welcome to my channel English Fluency Lab, where I help you improve your English language skills. Friends, in this video, I'm going to walk you through the first person, the second person and the third person perspective. Now friends, I remember when I was in school, this concept used to be very confusing to me. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through when and how to use these three perspectives in the English language. So are you ready to get started? Let's go. So first of all, let's start with an introduction. Let us first understand what is the first, second and third person perspective. So the first, second and third person are ways of describing different points of view in English. We use different points of view to tell stories or give information in various ways. So that is a simple definition of the first, second and third person. Now let us understand the specific definitions of these 3 points of view. The first person. You talk in the first person when we want to share our own story or talk about ourselves. When we want to share our own story and talk about ourselves, that's when we talk in the first person. Second person is to give advice or instructions directly to the reader. To give advice or instructions directly to the reader. And third person to talk about other people's actions or stories like in news reports or books. So friends, those are the situations in which you use the first person, second person and third person. Now let's do a deep dive into each of these points of view, right? So let us take an example of all the 3 perspectives. I have already told you when the first and the second and the third person is used. Now let us take an example of all 3 points of view. The first person. I had a nice day. The sun was shining and I went to the park. So in this, the person is talking about himself or herself, right? He's not talking about anybody. I had a nice day. The sun was shining and I went to the park. The person is talking about himself or herself. That is when you use the first person. Second person. You need to stop eating sugar. You must exercise more often. Now in this statement you see the person is addressing somebody else. He's not talking about himself. You need to stop eating sugar. He's talking to somebody else. You must exercise more often. So that is the example of the second person. Third person. They got married in the summer and they went for a holiday to Greece in May. Now the mention is about somebody else. Okay, the person is talking about somebody else to talk about other people's actions or stories like in news reports or books. Okay, so he's talking about somebody else who is not there at the moment, right? So those are examples of the first person, second person and third person. Now let us go into detail into first person, second person and third person. Now the first person perspective allows individuals to show their personal experiences and subjective opinions. The perspective uses pronouns such as I, me, we, us, our and my, right? So these are the pronouns which are used in first person perspective, right? Now, when is the first person perspective used? The first person perspective offers a personal point of view. It is used in autobiographies, subjective essays, memoirs, personal narratives and personal blogs. Right? This is where you use, these are some of the examples where you use the first person perspective. Now, let us look at specific examples of some of them. All right, first person perspective examples. Now, let us look at an example of an autobiography. Right? Here is an example of an autobiography. Autobiography is something which a person writes about himself. I was born in a small beach town. The ocean was always close by. Now I work in a restaurant by the water. Every day I see the waves and remember happy childhood days, swimming and building sand castles. It's like being a kid again, but now I get paid. So here is an example of an autobiography which is always written in the first person perspective. Notice the pronoun I. The person is talking about himself. Now let's take an example of a personal blog. Today I want to share a special recipe. It's a dish my mother taught me to make when I was young. It's very simple but so tasty. Each time I make, I feel my mother's love and warmth in the kitchen with me. So that's an example of a personal blog. Again, the pronoun I has been used out here, right? The person is talking about his or her experience. Short story, right? Now let's take an example of a short story. It was raining. I looked outside. My bike was clean and ready, but now the streets were wet. I wanted to go to the park, but I didn't have a raincoat. Maybe later, I thought sadly, and I went inside to play with my toys. So friends, These are some examples of the first person perspective which are used in autobiographies, personal blogs and short stories, and where the person is talking about himself or herself. So I hope that the first person perspective is clear to you now. Now let us talk about the second person perspective. Now the second person perspective directly addresses the reader. This perspective uses pronouns such as you, your and yours. Now there are a variety of contexts in which the second person perspective is used. Some of them are instruction manuals, advertisements, emails or letters, self-help books and interactive fiction. Now let us take an example of a few of them. Now here are some examples of a second person perspective. Let's take the example of a self-help book. Imagine yourself on a peaceful beach. Breathe in the fresh sea air and feel the warm sun on your skin. This feeling of calm can be with you anytime. Take a few deep breaths, hold for 3 and slowly release. Peace is always within reach. Now friends, this is an example of a self-help book which is written in a second person perspective. You are trying to address the reader out here, the person reading the book. Now let us take an example of an instruction manual. First, ensure you have all the necessary components laid out. Next, carefully follow the step-by-step instructions, paying close attention to the details. This way, you will be able to assemble your table with ease and precision. So friends, that's the example of an instruction manual. It is being addressed to the person who's reading the instruction manual. Let's take an example of an interactive fiction. As you enter the grand mysterious palace, you can feel the history pulsating through the walls. You are about to unravel the secrets that lie within making choices that will carve your path in this unfolding adventure. So here again, this is a fiction novel and you're addressing the person who's reading the book, which is in the second person perspective. So friends, I hope the second person perspective is clear to you. Now let us understand the third person perspective. Now the third person perspective provides an outsider's view, presenting a more detached and objective approach to narrating events. This perspective uses pronouns such as he, she, it and they. Also now let us understand where do we use the third person perspective. The third person perspective is used to talk about or stories, right? It is talked for it. We talk in the third person perspective in news reports, in academic articles, biographies, research papers, historical narratives, and fictional novels, right? So let us take a few examples of the third person perspective. Let us take an example of a biography. Dr. Bourne was known for his unyielding spirit and determination. Throughout his life, he embraced challenges with open arms, inspiring those around him. His legacy will inspire generations to come. Right? So this is an example of a biography which is always written in the third person perspective. Now in the earlier example of an autobiography, it is written in the first person perspective. Now what is the difference between an autobiography and a biography? Well, let's say if Elon Musk is writing a book on himself, that would be an autobiography. But if somebody else were to write a book on Elon Musk, that would be a biography. So that will be written in the third person perspective. Let us take an example of a fictional novel. In the bustling city, a young boy named Timmy explored the park, his heart filled with curiosity. As he wandered deeper into the woods, he stumbled upon a hidden clearing where strange creatures danced in the moonlight. Little did he know, this encounter would change his destiny forever. So friends, this is an example of a fictional novel which is written in the third person perspective, right? You use pronouns like they, he, she, right? Let's move on to a news report. Yesterday, the mayor unveiled a new hospital in the heart of the city. Locals gathered and they were eager to witness the inauguration. The project aims to give treatment to people at a reasonable cost. So that is an example of a news report. So friends, I hope you've understood the first person, the third person, and the first person, the second person, and the third person perspective, right? Now let's take a quick quiz on all these three concepts. Alright, let's take a quick quiz to check your understanding of the first, second, and third person perspective. I'm going to give you 5 situations and you need to tell me which point of view or which person this particular situation is in. You can pause the video and then we can discuss the answers. So here are the 5 situations. First one, I loved watching the beautiful sunset. its colors making me feel calm and happy. My grandma and grandpa used to enjoy them too when they were dating. So that's the first one. Second, you feel a rush of excitement as you open the mysterious age-old book revealing secrets untold. Number 3, it wasn't an easy life. My parents worked long hours and I spent a lot of time home alone. My friends had siblings, but I was all alone. Number 4, in today's press conference, Mayor Anderson highlighted the achievements of the community task force. And finally, Emily wandered through the garden where each flower told a story of resilience and beauty. So friends, please pause the video out here and tell me which perspective these particular situations are in. Alright, so I'm going to take a quick break for 5 seconds and then we'll come back and discuss the answers. Alright, let's look at the first one. The first one is in the first person. The pronoun I. The person is talking about himself or herself. Number 2, you feel a rush of excitement. This is in the second person. Remember the pronoun you, right? When you're addressing somebody else, you feel a rush of excitement. Number 3, it wasn't an easy life. This is again in the first person. Number 4, in today's press conference, this is in the third person. Mayor Anderson highlighted the achievements and the community because you're talking of someone else. Emily wandered through the garden where each flower told a story of resilience and beauty. This is in the third person. Right? So, friends, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something new. Please mention in the comments how many you got right out of 5. And if you have found value in the video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel and please to press the bell because I keep coming up with videos like these to help you improve your English language skills. If there is any topic you want me to cover, please do mention it in the comments and I will try and make a video on that for you. Thank you and have a good one.